I have a question for you, and I want you to answer it honestly, not to me, but to yourself. Why do you believe the things you believe? No, really. Think about it. Right now, inside your head, you have a collection of certainties. You are certain about your politics. You are certain about your skills. You are certain that your friend likes you, or that your boss hates you, or that you are making the right life choices. You feel it in your gut. It feels like truth. But here's the thing that keeps me up at night. How do you know? How do you really know that you didn't just make it all up? How do you know that your brain isn't playing a trick on you right this second, convincing you of something that is completely 100% false? See, I've spent my whole life in physics, and people think physics is safe. They think it's just numbers, equations, hard facts. They think, well, the math doesn't lie. And that's true. The math doesn't lie, but people lie. And the person they lie to the most isn't the tax collector. It isn't their spouse. It isn't the voter. The person you lie to the most is you. Some of the biggest disasters in the history of science, and I mean real catastrophes, weren't caused by stupid people. They were caused by geniuses, Nobel Prize winners, the best minds our species has ever produced. And do you know why they failed? Because they wanted something to be true so badly that they bent the world to fit their belief. And the terrifying part, they didn't even know they were doing it. By the end of our time together today, I want to teach you the hardest skill in the world. It's not calculus. It's not quantum mechanics. It is the ability to catch yourself in the act of fooling yourself. Because if you can't do that, you aren't thinking. You're just rearranging your prejudices. Let me tell you the first principle. The most important thing I've ever learned in science. Write this down. Tattoo it on your brain. The first principle is that you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool. I'll say it again. You are the easiest person to fool. Your brain is running a con on you, and it has been doing it since the day you were born. Now, why should that be? Why would nature build a brain that lies to itself? Well, look at it from nature's perspective. Your brain didn't evolve to find the truth with a capital T. It evolved to keep you alive long enough to reproduce. That's it. That is the only goal. Truth was never the priority. Survival was the priority. If you are a hunter on the savannah 50,000 years ago and you hear a rustle in the grass, it is better to believe it's a lion and run away, even if it's just the wind. Being wrong keeps you alive. Being skeptical gets you eaten. So we evolved to be overconfident. We evolved to ignore evidence that scares us. We evolved to fit in with the tribe rather than question the chief. Nature doesn't care if you are accurate. Nature cares if you are breathing. But here is the problem. We don't live on the savannah anymore. We are trying to understand the universe. We are doing science. We are building civilizations. And in the realm of truth, self-deception is fatal. If you believe something just because you want it to be true, you are not doing science. You are doing something else. You are doing something I call cargo cult science. Let me tell you a story. It's a true story, and it's the perfect example of what I'm talking about. During World War II in the South Seas, there were islands where the indigenous people had never seen modern technology. They lived simple lives. Then suddenly the Americans showed up. The military arrived. They cut down the jungle. They built long, flat strips of concrete, runways. They built wooden towers. And then the magic happened. Giant metal birds, planes came down from the sky, and they brought cargo, food, medicine, clothing, steel, tools. Wealth beyond imagination dropped from the heavens. The natives watched this. They thought, this is wonderful. But then the war ended. The soldiers packed up. The planes stopped coming. The cargo stopped dropping. So what did the natives do? They wanted the cargo back. So they looked at what the soldiers did, and they tried to replicate it. They went into the jungle. They cleared a long strip of land to look like a runway. They built a hut out of bamboo that looked exactly like the control tower. They carved headphones out of wood and put them on their heads. They put bamboo sticks up like antennas. They even lit fires along the runway to look like landing lights. They did everything right. The form was perfect. It looked like an airport. They sat in the tower wearing their wooden headphones, waving their arms, waiting for the planes to land. But the planes didn't land. Why? because they had the form of the thing, but they lacked the substance. They didn't understand radio waves. They didn't understand aerodynamics. They didn't understand global logistics. They thought that if you just go through the motions, if you just build the ritual, the result will follow. Now, you might laugh at them, silly people with their wooden headphones, but I am telling you right now, there are scientists at the biggest universities in the world sitting in their laboratories wearing the white coats, using the big words, running the statistics, and they are wearing wooden headphones. They're doing cargo cult science. They have the trappings of research. They have the charts. They have the peer review. But the planes don't land. Their results don't mean anything. Their theories don't predict the future. Why? Because they fooled themselves. They decided what the answer should be before they did the experiment. They are waving bamboo sticks at the sky, hoping the universe will agree with them. But the universe doesn't care about your bamboo sticks. The universe only respects integrity. You think this doesn't happen to smart people? Let me give you a real example from the history of physics, a tragic one. Robert Millikan, a genius. He won the Nobel Prize. He came up with a brilliant experiment to measure the charge of an electron using falling drops of oil. It's a classic. Every physics student learns it. He measured the drops falling, he applied an electric field to make them rise, and he calculated the charge. He got a number. He published it. But there was a problem. Millikan used the wrong value for the viscosity of air. His number was wrong. It was too low. Now, that's not the tragedy. Making a mistake happens. The tragedy is what happened after. For the next 20 years, other physicists measured the charge of the electron, and if you look at the history of their results, you see something shocking. The numbers didn't jump immediately to the correct higher value. No. The next guy got a number that was just a little bit higher than Millikan's. The guy after him got a number just a tiny bit higher than that. And slowly, over years, the number crept up until it finally hit the truth. Why? Why didn't they find the truth instantly? Because they were anchoring. When a scientist got a result that was way higher than Millikan's, they said, "Oh, I must have made a mistake. This doesn't match the Nobel Prize winner's number." And they would look for a reason to throw that data away. They would say, "My equipment was broken," or "the temperature changed." But when they got a result that was close to Millikan's, they said, "Ah, beautiful. This confirms it." And they published it. They weren't lying. They weren't faking the data. They were fooling themselves. They were filtering reality through their expectation. They were afraid to be outliers. They were afraid to stand up and say, "The hero is wrong." This is anchoring bias. Once you have a number in your head, once you have a belief in your heart, your brain acts like a magnet. It pulls everything toward that belief. And Millikan himself, if you look at his notebooks, you see comments in the margins. Next to some data points, he wrote, "Beautiful result, publish this." Next to others that didn't fit his theory, he wrote, "Something wrong here, discard." He was curating the truth. He was polishing the statue. And in doing so, he delayed the progress of physics for a generation. This is the danger. You don't know you're doing it. You feel like you're being careful. You feel like you're cleaning the data, but you aren't cleaning it. You're cooking it. Let me give you one more example from psychology this time, because it shows you what real science looks like. It's about rats. For decades, people ran rats through mazes. They wanted to know how rats learn. In 1937, a man named Young did an experiment. He put rats in a corridor with doors. The food was always behind the third door. He wanted to see if the rats could learn to count to 3. But the rats kept going to the same door, door number 1, no matter where he put the food. Now, most scientists would have said, "Stupid rats," and quit, or they would have fudged the data. But Young was a real scientist. He asked, how do they know which door is which? He thought maybe they were smelling the food. So he used chemicals to mask the smell. The rats still went to the same door. He thought maybe they were seeing the lights in the room. So he covered the corridor. The rats still went to the same door. He thought maybe the doors had different textures. He sanded them down. Still the same. Finally, after months of failure, he realized something. The floor. The corridor was on a wooden floor. When the rats ran, their tiny claws made a sound. The floor sounded different in different spots. The rats weren't counting. They were navigating by sonar. They were listening to the floor. So Jung put the whole maze on sand. Silence. And only then, only after he eliminated the smell, the light, the texture, and the sound, did the rats actually have to learn the maze. Jung discovered all the things you have to do to not fool yourself about rats. And do you know what happened? Nobody cared. The papers published after him didn't cite him. They ignored his work. They went back to running rats on wooden floors because it was easier. Because Jung's method was too hard. It required too much work. Jung discovered the truth, but the scientific community wanted the cargo. They wanted the easy answers. This is the tragedy of cargo cult science. We prefer the comfortable illusion over the difficult truth. Jung is my hero, not because he made a flashy discovery, but because he had the integrity to admit he didn't know what was happening until he stripped away every possible deception. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, Richard, I'm not a physicist. I don't run rats in mazes. Why does this matter to me? It matters because you are running experiments every single day of your life. You are testing ideas about your world. Is this person trustworthy? Is this job right for me? Is my political party the good guys? And in every single one of those experiments, you are suffering from confirmation bias. This is the most powerful force in human psychology. It is the engine of self-deception. Once you believe something, your brain becomes a lawyer for that belief. You notice every piece of evidence that supports it, and you ignore or explain away every piece of evidence that contradicts it. Think about a horoscope. It says, you will have communication trouble this week. Later, you have a small argument with your spouse. Your brain goes, aha, the horoscope was right. But you ignore the 500 perfectly normal conversations you had that week. You only count the hits. You forget the misses. Or think about someone you don't like. Let's say you have a coworker you think is lazy. If they are 5 minutes late, you think, see, lazy. If they are early, you don't notice. Or you think, they're just trying to suck up to the boss. No matter what they do, your brain twists it to fit your theory. Let's try an experiment right now. Think of a friend you love. Think of 3 reasons they are a good person. Easy, right? The memories flow like water. Now think of 3 reasons that same friend is a liar. It's hard. It feels like swimming upstream. Your brain resists. It says, no, don't look there. Even if the evidence exists, your mind hides it from you. That resistance you feel, that friction, that is confirmation bias. That is the sound of your brain protecting its cargo. And this is dangerous, because if you can't see the flaws in your own thinking, you are flying blind. You are the pilot of a plane who refuses to look at the fuel gauge because he feels like he has enough gas. That pilot is going to crash. So how do we fix it? How do we stop fooling ourselves? The answer is simple, but it is incredibly painful. It requires a kind of integrity that corresponds to utter honesty. You have to bend over backwards to prove yourself wrong. If you have a theory, do not look for evidence that proves it. Look for evidence that destroys it. If you think your political party is perfect, go read the smartest arguments from the other side, and don't read them to mock them. Read them to understand them. If you think your business idea is brilliant, try to kill it. Try to find the one reason it will fail. If you attack your own ideas with a hammer and they break, then they were trash anyway. Good riddance. But if you attack them and they survive, if they stand up to the scrutiny, then and only then can you trust them. Real science is not about being right. It is about trying your hardest to prove yourself wrong and failing. I want to leave you with this thought. There is a beauty in not knowing. Most people are afraid of uncertainty. They want the wooden headphones. They want the comfort of the ritual. They want to be told, yes, you are right, you are smart, the planes are coming. But certainty is a trap. The moment you are absolutely certain of something, you stop learning, you stop looking, you close your eyes. I would rather have questions that can't be answered than answers that can't be questioned. I would rather live with doubt than live with a delusion, because nature doesn't care about your delusions. The reality of the world, the physics, the biology, the economics, it is going to do what it does, regardless of what you believe. If you build a bridge based on wishful thinking, gravity will pull it down. If you build a life based on self-deception, reality will eventually break it. So, Be brave enough to be wrong. Be brave enough to say, I don't know. Be brave enough to look at your most cherished beliefs and ask, what if I'm fooling myself? It's scary. It's uncomfortable. Your ego will scream at you. But it is the only way to make the planes land. It is the only way to find something that is actually true, and that is the only cargo worth waiting for. If you want to join a community of people who are trying to stop fooling themselves, if you want to explore the hard truths of the universe, from black holes to the wiring of your own brain, then hit that subscribe button. We don't sell wooden headphones here. We deal in reality. Thank you for thinking with me. See you in the next one.